Well, back in the fall, in the bailout that started it all, the feds gave Wall Street and banks nationwide about $700 billion, without too many strings attached. And then the rules changed. Now a bank in Minnesota is saying thanks, but no thanks. Its CEO wants to give the $361 million it received back to the feds. And this CEO is really not all that happy about this bailout program. Bill Cooper is that CEO. He heads up TCF Financial Corporation, and he joins us now. Hi, Bill.
Hi, how are you, Megan?
I'm doing great, thanks. All right, so you guys are not just in Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, Colorado, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Arizona. You're a big bank. You got over $360 million worth of TARP funds, or the bailout funds that came from the feds. Why do you want to give it back?
Well, we never needed the money in the first place. TCF was always well capitalized. We've had 50 consecutive quarters of earnings. We never did any subprime lending, derivatives, or off-balance sheet transactions, securitization, any of that kind of business. Well, our regulators came to us and suggested that we take it, and it was kind of put in the format. It would be what's good for America. We want to recapitalize the healthy banks and give them more strength to do lending. It'd be good for the economy. What's happened subsequently is it's now not the healthy banks that got that money, which is what we were concerned about, being described as a not healthy bank if we didn't take it. Now, if you've taken that TARP money, you're kind of characterized as a slimy banker taking money from the taxpayer. And we'll be well capitalized after we pay it back, and they can use the money for somebody else that needs it.
And one of the other issues you have with this is the salary cap. Right, you can't. Your executives aren't going to be able to make more than $400,000 a year, and you say that's just bad business for you.
Well, I personally, by contract, I don't get a salary or bonus. None of our people got any bonuses, and that's the way our programs work. It does affect some of our people who are on commission that make a fair amount of money because the bank makes a fair amount of money. So that isn't really the major issue. The real issue, taking money from the government is like borrowing money from your mother-in-law. Pretty soon she wants to paint your bedroom, if you know what I mean. And, they've kind of taken the position that this TARP money is fungible, and every dollar you spend is now a portion of their money, and so they're going to have a say in everything you do in terms of spending your money. And that makes running a business very, very difficult. And like I said, we were trying to be good citizens taking this money. We don't need it. They've made some changes that means we can't lever that money. In other words, really grow the bank on that TARP money. And we don't have to because we have plenty of capital anyway. And so it just no longer makes sense for us.
What do you think about this? Sorry, go ahead.
I had breakfast the other morning at a local restaurant here in Minnesota, and 15 people came up and patted me on the shoulder and said, "Congratulations for taking that money. We don't want banks taking taxpayer money."
Congratulations for taking it or for giving it back?
For giving it back.
Yeah. And, let me ask you, though, because I understand your objections to the tightening of the regulations and so on that are coming down on these banks. But when you look at a bank like Citibank or Bank of America, which we just keep funneling this dough into, Citigroup in particular, do you understand it? Do you understand why the taxpayers are saying, I don't want the CEO of these banks, which are failing and getting all this money, to be making $5 million a year?
Absolutely, I understand that. I'm really mad at these banks, too, and their CEOs. I mean, they've left this mess for us. TCF never engaged in any of this kind of stuff that they engaged in. We've stayed profitable. We get beat up as a result of it. And one of the things that happens in this kind of a regulatory environment is when you have misbehavior like you've had in some of those banks, the regulators tend to go around and bayonet the innocent. And so I'm just as mad as everybody else. The money they paid to Merrill Lynch, and the people who got away with it. Robert Rubin walked away with $150 million as the vice chairman at Citicorp, and nobody's talking about him putting that money back. The money that the Countrywide guy took out, I'm just as outraged about it as everybody else. What
do you make of it, Bill? You were in the same position a lot of these other bank executives were a couple of years ago, where you could have gotten into this line of business, these derivatives and all that stuff, and you chose not to. Why? Did you see a risk that they didn't see?
TCF for several years was rated by U.S. Banker magazine as the most profitable bank return on equity. doing things the old-fashioned way. And our bank is run by bankers. These are people who have made loans. We have millions of checking accounts, millions of loans out there. We only make loans to people that can pay them back. A lot of these banks are run by these masters of the universe, PhDs who do everything with a computer and a pencil. We get out there and earn our money, and if you make a loan to somebody who has bad credit with an interest rate that's bound to rise and finance 100% of the house, etc., you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, these folks couldn't see that. It's pretty clear to us.
Bill Cooper, get your bank to New York. Bill and I are going to sign up.
There we are.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
All the